Good morning. I hope everybody that listens is keeping well. I wanted to share some of my thoughts. Some 8 years ago, I clicked for the first time on YouTube. This platform was already a sensation back then. Decided to check it out. I didn't like it at first. What was presented to me was not appealing at all. So I started typing in subjects of my interest. The algorithm was still generous and fair, so it took me places. I started listening and I got immediately hooked. Hooked because it was informative, it was entertaining, and above else, it was educational. I could notice people put their heart into making these videos. They had pleasure doing it. Plus, I could be listening to the information while doing something else. So, like a sponge, I consumed hours and hours of content. But then something happened. The ads came to be, monetization. At first, everybody was like, why not? But then it changed people. Monetization changed people's attitude. They no longer did content from their hearts, they no longer made content that was spontaneous. No, they made content for the sake of making content, for the sake of monetization. Monetization changed people's behavior. They started attacking each other. They started clickbaiting. They started triggering the audience or triggering other content creators. And of course, with monetization, it attracted a whole type of content creators. People who wasn't creative at all, or you know, they didn't came from a place of honesty of or you know they just wanted the fucking money. Then the cool crowd just moved. They were triggered because YouTube decided to demonetize them. Your content sucks, we're going to demonetize you. Triggered most of the cool crowd who just went to other platforms. um, Honestly, right now, I only follow a couple of channels, even though I am, you know, subbed to hundreds of channels, but there's only a couple that are still putting out interesting content. Content that is politically, correct. Because all of these, politics and bullshit has infiltrated the platform as well. Free speech and everything. I mean, now it's a diluted mediocre platform, honestly. All because monetization happened. You could say it's the same thing about a society. When society becomes obsessed with money, with monetization, then everything becomes mediocre, stupid, annoying, to the point that they even forget what's more important. What's the purpose of life? Humans, when they get something, for the most part, like an object or power, or something else even more complex like power, or they get seduced by envy or rage. The most One of the biggest fears they will, have is to lose that power, lose those things. So they might fight extremely hard to get something. I'm going to work hard to get this. And when they finally get it, they become paranoid, afraid, consumed with fear of what? Losing it. When you are in that state, you will be capable of doing atrocious things. You dehumanize. It's easier to dehumanize others for the sake of protecting that thing. The objects that you fought for end up owning you and twisting you, dehumanizing you and everybody else around. Society that is still quote unquote third world country, you can see they don't own much. They walk barefooted still. There's no roads or sanitation. There's no jobs, quote unquote. And still, there's this expression in their faces. They have huge families. It is the cohesiveness of the family. Love. And when I say love, I'm talking about respect. To me, respect is the ultimate form of love. And it is this that keeps people together. Even though they walk barefooted, they are happy. Look at people in so called developed countries. They have small families, close to nothing. Demographics is collapsing. They have all the money in the world. The money, the power is concentrated in the West. But still, their populations are collapsing because they simply became obsessed with their possessions, paranoid. Monetization changed their behavior. Money changes people's behavior. Well, not all, but most. It's almost like they become possessed by a demon. Okay, let me have a sip of coffee. So it's not what causes demographic to collapse. It's lack of the lack of love, the lack of respect. That's what causes the demographics to collapse. And what does grease the wheels? Money, greed. You have poor families. They have nothing, and still they have 4 or 5 children. That's a different type of, wealth. That's a different type of wealth, you know. Rich people, millionaires, they have zero, 1 to 0 children. The more money they have, the less children, you know. So anyway, I thought of using YouTube as a comparison to civilization. Whenever monetization is introduced, authenticity, oh merde, I can't say that. Being authentic, spontaneous, just goes away whenever you introduce money. People become possessed. It turns, it also emerges, from the darkness of these mediocre people, extremely mediocre and silly little people. They think money is superior to everything else. And they try to convince the whole world that being rich is the way to go. It's almost like projection. What is the most valuable thing to you? That's a question everybody should ask themselves. What is the most valuable thing to you? Me personally is relationships with people, one-on-one relationship. That's the most important thing. To create a relationship. It's not the same thing as I can buy your attention. I can hire your attention. I can hire you. No, that's not the right thing, I would say. No, it's one-on-one relationship. When it comes from the heart, right? Th- Can you help me? And if they say yes, they mean it. With money, that's not how it works. I'll pay you. Do me this, do me that. And they say yes, but it's not the same thing at all. It has to come from the heart. This is something that politicians don't understand. Anyone sitting behind a desk eventually becomes dehumanized. They no longer see the world for what it is. They see the world through an Excel page, It's squares and numbers. Politicians tend to, rely on statistics and graphics as well, and they are completely out of touch with reality. It has to come from the heart. If you want to change something, it's not throwing money at it that you're going to change it. Throwing money at it, you're just going to make it worse. You're going to create an establishment. You're going to create, um, you're going to create an addiction. It has to come from the heart. Change comes from within. It's from spontaneity, from creativity. Throwing money at things well, doesn't really help. Oh, but people need money to live. At what cost? That's the question. Really, does it work? It's like Thomas Sowell used to say, still says, I'm sorry. I haven't bought any of his books, but I listen to tons and tons of his content on YouTube. He's like, do you have any proof? If you have any proof, then I'll ask you, at what cost? A civilization that gets obsessed with money, they think money, capitalism, quote unquote, is the answer to everything, then I will ask you, at what cost? Has anyone asked the question, at what cost? They can't even wrap their head around it. The biggest, capitalist nation in the world is also the biggest corruptive cultural in the world. Capitalism is about money. So with that money, you can buy anything. Corruption. So anyway, I think I'm gonna shut up now. Tell me what you guys think. Have a nice day.